Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Creative Belief. My name is Alex and I get to be one of the co-hosts of this show. And before we get into today's episode, I wanted to let you know about a really exciting series of episodes that we're about to dive into. So if you've listened to Creative Belief, you know very well that Josh and I are huge fans of racing. We're based here in Indianapolis, home of the Indianapolis 500, the greatest spectacle in racing. And so we really wanted to explore that intersection of motorsports and creativity. And so for the next several weeks, kind of leading up to the month of May when the Indianapolis 500 happens, and then just after that, right into June, we're going to be talking with creatives in the world of motorsports. Folks who work for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the IndyCar series, independent creatives who run agencies that focus on motorsports. And you're going to get to hear from all of them. And so we are super pumped about this series. We're super pumped about the month of May. And we can't wait for you to hear from all of our friends and all of these really incredible creatives who are really focused in the world of motorsports. So let's get into the first episode in this series with our good buddy and an incredibly talented creative, Harris Lue. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Creative Belief. This is a podcast that's a curated collection of conversations for creatives with creatives who believe that creativity can change the world. My name is Alex. I get to be one of the co-hosts on the show, and I'm here with my buddy and my business partner, Josh. Josh, how are you doing today, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing pretty good. Was having some technical issues here, getting set up.
You were
super
not
excited
just
for our guest.
having some technical issues. You were on the struggle bus hard.
Yeah.
Let's just call it what it is.
That is right. But I'm so excited for our guest today. I know we were just talking, and big fan of his work, and slightly fangirling a bit over having him on. Was super pumped. He said yes. So I'll let you go ahead and introduce him. But man, I'm excited to have Harris on today.
For sure, man. We're so pumped today to have on the show the one, the only Harris Lue. Harris is a designer, illustrator, photographer. He's the co-owner of Lue Creative, an incredible design agency working in the world of motorsports. If you're not following what they're doing, you need to go give them a follow. Like, stop the podcast, go give them a follow right now. But Harris, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us, having me. I'm in that mode of saying us. So we're a two-person design team. It's me and my business partner, Emily. My now wife. We just got married back in November.
Congrats, dude! That's awesome.
Thank you. It's been awesome. I feel like we did everything backwards. She had a dog when we met, and then we got a house, and then we started a business, and we bought a car, and then the last thing we did was get married. But
you know what? Just get it. Check it off the list. You got a dime.
We had all
order
the
doesn't
things,
matter.
We had all the hard things covered. It was extremely hard to make a wedding registry because we had bought everything already.
Right.
But yeah, Emily is definitely my better half. I know a lot of people say that, but I feel like the key to having a better half is the two halves can't be the same. Like, she's great at things that I'm not great at, and we come together and make a well-rounded team. So
yes.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to having a good chat today.
Hey, I don't know that anything will probably get you more ready for marriage than having a business together. Like,
yeah.
You say you did it backwards, but it's like, that probably actually is a good thing to go ahead and
worked really well.
We definitely worked all the kinks out early. So
for sure. Because Josh and I are the opposite. Like, we've both been married for 10 plus years at this point, and then we both just started businesses with our wives. And it's been awesome. But it's like a learning curve for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, and if our wives are listening, obviously, like, super great. We love it. It's so good. It's so good.
Flawless.
No, well, Harris, we're so pumped to have you here. Josh, let's get into this thing.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining us again. But let's back up a bit. You kind of hit on a couple things there, but let's back up. Let's get to know Harris Lue. What were some things that growing up maybe sparked you initially, creatively wise, or just different things you were exposed to early on that kind of drew you to where you ended up being now?
Well, I come from a very creative family. My granddad on my dad's side was into photography his entire life. The first time I saw a digital camera, it was his. He's had, film prints. He lived near the beach, so he would take photos of landscape and the ocean and birds. And my mom as well was an artist. She was a great artist in high school, painter, illustrator. Really, probably could have done something with her life as far as art goes, but back in the 80s, and there wasn't really a clear path for her to take that. My dad, on the other hand, he ended up going to college for theater production design, so set design and set building, and so I really came from a long line of creatives, and it's big in my family. My cousin Adam is a photographer and a lighting specialist. He's a best boy on productions. He's got the biggest flex over me because he helped light the J. Cole oh man, what's the album that came out in 2021? He helped light the burning backboard photo. That was his light.
That's awesome.
It was just like a random Tuesday night, and I get a photo of him holding the light meter beside J. Cole on a basketball court. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me, man?
That's incredible.
And then my cousin Eric, his brother, was huge into drawing cars when we were little, and he's now an engineer, mechanical engineer. So he took the side that took more math, and I took the side that didn't. But I've been drawing cars and drawing stuff since I could put a crayon to a piece of construction paper. I would get in trouble all the time in school for drawing when they thought I should have been listening, which I was listening. My fifth grade teacher, Miss Tingen, I would get on her last nerve because I sat probably one seat back from the projector, and I would be drawing elaborate cars. Like I remember the one that she threw away. The 2005 or 2000 whatever Charger concept had just come out, and it was 4-door, and so I drew it as a 2-door, and I had spent almost the whole class that day drawing this car, and she tried to trip me up with a math question, and I got it right. And she got angry and balled the paper up and threw it away. So,
wow.
But I grew up in a little town called Oxford, North Carolina. It's a little bit north of Raleigh, Durham, in the middle of North Carolina. Kind of, if you're going on 85 north, it's halfway between like Durham and the Virginia border. Went to JF Webb High School, had an amazing art teacher, Harris Lue, who saw my talents and saw my passion for the art and pushed it in a good direction. She inspired me to go to East Carolina University, which was her alma mater. And while there, I spent 4 years, going through the ECU School of Art and Design, and really focused in on the motorsports thing. I've always been a fan of music. I've always been a fan of cars. I got my first car when I was 15, and that's what kind of sparked my love for photography, because my car was $800. It was a hunk of junk. Nobody wanted to take pictures of it but me. So I had to learn how to take pictures. And I started doing sports photography in high school as well. And that kind of led into my side gigs in college. And then my final project, senior year, I turned my buddy Kenny's late model stock car into my senior project. The 2013, the C7 Corvette concept had just come out. And so I used that to make the classic Monte Carlo late model stock car body, a 2014 Corvette. And against all of my professors' wishes, because they hated the fact that everything I did was about cars. They wanted me to do something else, which I look back now and I appreciate it because it helped me get more well-rounded. But at the time, I was like, why? This is what I'm passionate about. They gave me a good lesson of, you can still do good art even if you're not passionate about it. But the stuff that I was passionate about, I always did better. But yeah, so I, put that in the art gallery. Right out of college, went to work for a Mustang parts company, which is kind of, I met some folks through the internet. Thankfully, Instagram was in its infancy, and went and worked there for a year. And then right after that, got the job at NASCAR, moved back to Charlotte, and I've been here ever since.
That's awesome.
Dude, that's incredible. I feel like a lot of creatives that we talk to have that like early high school moment, right? That art teacher, that person that really just kind of like propelled them and pushed into them, right? I've got that. I've got a guy who I did TV broadcasting in high school, and he's the one who really like fueled that in me. And I was like, hey, you should go and create and try things and be adventurous. He would always give me like assignments, he would call them. I think he really was just trying to like help me flex and help me stretch my creative muscle, that were different than the rest of the class, because he saw something in me and I was like, I want to help you be prepared for that. And I think that all of us could look back on our lives and see these people who have been influential in our creative journey. And I love that, like, your art teacher's name, you can give her that shout out, because I think that's so special when we can go back and name those people who, like, our creative journey is not just our own. It's this collective, like, representation of all these people that have influenced us throughout our years of adolescence and growing up.
Absolutely. And Miss Lue, the turning moment, I was drawing. So I was big into sports. I played football. I did all that. One of the reasons I got into photography is because I hurt my back when I was 16. So I had to sit out for basically a whole season, and I was in the photography class, and she let me take her SLR to the games. So I don't know why I still dressed out in all of my football gear when I couldn't play, but I was on the sidelines with my shoulder pads on taking photos of the games.
Heck yeah.
And we actually turned that into a little like side business to get money for the art department, because we would then print posters and sell them back to the players, and we started going to volleyball. Anyway, so that kind of spitball. But also, when I was not drawing cars in class, I was drawing shoes or stuff like that. So I was drawing like pro model shoes for my teammates. And each pro model shoe, I would do like a logo. And so I was showing my art teachers these things, and she was like, this is graphic design. Do you know what graphic design is? And I was like, I have no idea what that is. And so that was the moment where she explained what graphic design was, that it was a career, that you could make money at this, and that East Carolina and NC State and all these colleges I was looking at had a program for that. And that was the moment that I remember in my head of showing her that shoe that I drew, and I still have it. It was from my teammate, David Evans. And so the logo was like a D and an E, and his number was 3. So the E was also a 3. So it was, a DE3.
Heck yeah.
And then that was the moment. She was like, this is what you should do. And start looking it up. And that's when I started trying to find my path towards that direction, and it ended up working out.
That's awesome. And I love that too, because like you started off talking about kind of like the lineage of creatives in your family too, right? Like your grandpa, your mom, and even talking about how your mom was just so talented, but couldn't really find a path, or knew of a path that would pay. And I remember even growing up too, of like, you can't be a working artist, or, like you'll make no money. And, and so like, I know, like for me, when growing up, being creative, having those outlets, drawing and things like that, for me, it was like, well, that's all it'll ever be. It's just an outlet, right? Like just something, a hobby. I'll never be able to make money doing this. And it wasn't until my high school art teacher too, was like, and I accidentally stumbled upon graphic design as well. Like I took this random class because it was either that or I take another math class, and man, I'm like you. I'm like, I ain't about math.
Not doing that.
And I walk into this classroom and I see all these Mac computers, and I'm like, whoa, what is this? And I start learning the basics of graphic design. And then my art teacher, just same thing, was like, there's something here for you. And just really started pouring into me and showing me like, oh, there is life outside of, like this, just as a hobby. Like you can live and enjoy your passion and the things you're passionate about, and still have a pretty decent life. So it's really cool to have those moments and those people in our lives that we can look back on and say, like that was the time, or that was the person that really just kind of unlocked that for me.
Yeah. And going back to my parents, I was very lucky to grow up with my mom continuing to paint and continuing to draw. And there's still some of her paintings hanging in the kitchen at my childhood home. And then my dad got me into the theater when I was young, and we did the local plays, and he was the set designer. I remember I was too young to be in it, but I think I was in 6th grade, and he did help with the production for the middle school production of Grease. And we worked with the middle school to find I think it was an Oldsmobile or Studebaker or something that was abandoned in a lot in the town over. And we brought it back to the house, and we cut it in half with Sawzalls to make Grease lightning, right? And
dude.
And we put it on casters and all, and like I was helping my dad and the drama teacher at the middle school do all of that. And first time I used the Sawzall, but I was probably too young to be holding it. But he let me cut.
Yeah, it was like that's
I
don't even know if I've used a Sawzall still. So
I would say I don't trust Josh with the Sawzall to this day.
Like
so
9-10 years old, cutting the car in half. But yeah, man, like I got to see how things got made, right? Like how it goes from the idea up here to reality. And I think that was the coolest part of the theater thing. And I was in a couple of productions. I was an extra in Oliver. I was a little street kid. And then we did Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. And my dad was the big like military guy, and me and my classmate were his two like little like yes men soldiers that ran around behind him for the comic relief. But yeah, man, I got to see a lot of avenues of creativity. And then back to my granddad, he gave me my first copy of Photoshop. And I won't say that it was officially licensed, but I got my first copy of Photoshop. So if anybody from Adobe,
I think we all did that route. Yeah. We all had that route, right?
We've all been there, man.
If anybody from Adobe,
my cousin was
it was an official version. Okay?
It was right. This is probably the second or third episode where we've given that disclaimer to Adobe that hey, we all had legit licenses when we first got Photoshop.
The whole time we could all afford it. That's how it worked.
Don't come for me. Dude, that's incredible. I wanna hear a little bit about so you make that transition back to Charlotte, you go work with NASCAR and at NASCAR, an incredible brand, a storied brand in the world of motorsport, right? And really I would say Josh and I both agree, that's been a brand that has really been pushing the edge and the envelope, especially in the last 5 to 10 years of how they incorporate design and creativity into what they're doing. So I want to talk about that and hear a little bit about that journey, but then also want to hear about that pivotal moment of you deciding, hey, I'm going to go and I'm going to do my own thing. And I'm going to start this thing. So talk a little bit about those two experiences and kind of that in-between moment.
Man, well, before NASCAR, it was late model restoration, which was awesome. I got my first catalog of theirs when I was 10 or 12. My cousin Eric gave it to me. Keep coming back to my family. All these things tie together. But I spent a year there and I learned about Mustang parts and I made catalogs. I think I probably made the last full print catalog that they did in 2015, which was insane. I mean, learning how to make an 80-page catalog of nothing but parts. That was nuts. And, helping them revamp the website a little bit. We did a rebranding that year that the brand is still what they're using. I worked with my boss, Jeff, at the time to rebrand that. Got to meet one of my best creative friends, Chase Gibbs, who was just in my wedding this past November. And really, he's one of those people that I feel like I can send a piece of work to and I'm going to get honest feedback. And that's one of the most important people you can have in your life. But then I moved to NASCAR and had an amazing 5 years there. I was there from 2016 to right at the beginning of 2021. And I got to my first year was the big NASCAR rebrand, the first time NASCAR had a new logo since 1976. And I was working under Richard Chatham and with Caroline Fogel and my coworker Alex Brown, and we all got to work with an agency called Rare Agency who did the Hornets logo. They did, I think, the Timberwolves. But that was a huge experience being in those rooms. And even though I didn't get to touch much, I was in the room. I was able to, give my insight as a NASCAR fan and as someone who'd been at the company for 3 months at the time, right? You're like, holy cow, right into the fire. But man, that was an amazing first year. And, we built off of that year over year, watching the design space change and move towards more motion graphics, while on my side of things, I was trying to move my way into the licensing space, and kind of bring the throwback. Now that we have a new logo, let's take that old logo and really blow it out, right? Let's tie back to that stuff, because that was one of the problems is NASCAR's logo had been the same for so long that the throwback logo they were using was from the 60s. And you're like, that's a little too far back, right? So, so I got to work with amazing folks like Megan Malater, who's now the director of licensing. And me and my coworker Alex made a pitch and a platform in 2017 of this is how NASCAR merch could do throwback moving forward. And just 2 weeks ago, I'm watching another licensee come out that's utilizing artwork from the files that I made in 2017. And that's unreal to me. Even that NASCAR racing script with the checkerboard behind it, the circle NASCAR racing with the flags on either side. Me and my coworker Alex worked on that together. And like there's pieces and parts of the stuff we did back then in 2017, 18, 19 that are still getting grabbed by licensees like Hurley, like Abercrombie, all these companies that are taking our stuff and remixing it. And it's really cool to see how fresh it can still be, you know, almost 10 years later. And that's, you never know. Like when you're working on something like that, you send a file, you put it in the drive. When you leave that company or you go somewhere else, you never know where that work's going to go. And it's really cool that the stuff keeps coming across my timeline, and it's like, oh, this new brand has got this stuff. And it's like, that's my NASCAR racing. That's cool as hell. Like,
that's so dope.
That is awesome. That's cool.
Through that, I ended up working on the Hall of Fame projects, doing all the NASCAR Hall of Fame shirts, which like at one point I ended up on a Zoom call with Red Farmer, which is like, you know, if you don't know who Red Farmer is, he's a guy who raced up until he was in his 90s. Like if he could jump in a car right now, he still would, but I'm pretty sure his family's told him no. But you know, doing stuff like that, and then working with Mike Stefanik's family that same year, which I had worked with his daughter at NASCAR, and you know, for him to finally get in the Hall of Fame and the gravity of that. And, then working with licensees like Isaac Morris, who's, you know, they're the parent company over Urban Outfitters, and they like put they make sure the merch gets in the right stores, and working with them to, you know, teach their designers NASCAR and give them the guidelines. And I'm not 100% sure, but I'm confident that some of those guidelines are still getting sent around today. And it was a huge opportunity to learn how all of that works. Work with New Era, work with all these brands that, you know, I've worn and I've loved and I've bought for years, and then getting to see how the cookie gets made, right? And how the art goes from my screen to the embroidery machine, and then taking that knowledge with me. After that, I went and spent a year at Stewart-Haas Racing. I was a huge Stewart-Haas fan, Tony Stewart fan forever. I credit Tony Stewart with bringing me back into the sport. I was one of those folks that was not a fan of Jimmy Johnson winning 5 championships in a row. I credit 2011 when Tony won that championship and broke the streak as my re-entry. That's my re-entry into the sport. My best friend Kenny, who I grew up, you know, racing with, sidebar, we played t-ball and coach's pitch together, right? And he quit coach's pitch
to go way back.
Yeah, he quit coach's pitch to go race go-karts. Like that was, he was like, no more baseball. I'm going to race go-karts. And I remember, you know, getting in the car after I found out and being like, Dad, can I race go-karts? And my dad was like, nah, son, we can't afford it. And I just remember being so crushed. But I had Kenny to, you know, I tagged along with him in high school and tagged along with him in college, and kind of just became a gopher on his race team. And back to the photography, that was when I was getting into photography, started taking my camera. So when I wasn't carrying a tire or filling a gas tank or, you know, helping him get in the car or whatever, I was out in the infield with the camera, learning how to take photos of cars. And then that turned into being able to use his late model as my senior project. So it all kind of snowballed from there. But, you know, having that, I don't know where I took a sidebar. Where was I?
You were going to like Stewart-Haas Racing.
Oh, yes.
That kind of journey.
So in 2011, he had tickets to the Bristol night race. And he took me with him. And that was the moment I watched Brad Keselowski win the Bristol night race in a packed stadium. I think that was, you know, one of the last couple of big sellouts. So you're shoulder to shoulder. It's huge. You know, this gravity of this thing. And then I was hooked in from there and watched the rest of the season and watched Tony go win the championship. And from that point, I was like, all right. Like I had been back in the short track world. I was kind of, you know, I was still into racing, but NASCAR, I was kind of a little turned off by the 5 in a row. But I was back fully. So getting the opportunity to go work at Stewart-Haas Racing was huge for me. Huge Kevin Harvick fan, you know, like from 2001 all the way. So having the opportunity to get in there and see how the race teams worked, right? I had spent 5 years at the big house. I spent 5 years at the league, seeing how the sanctioning body worked. But spending a year seeing how much it takes to get the car to the racetrack, how many people it takes to get a sponsorship deal done and get a paint scheme made and get, you know, fire suits ordered. And it was an eye-opening experience, and honestly one of the biggest learning years of my life. I got to meet so many cool people. There's, you know, 2 guys that I met there, Kirby Boone and Josh Katz, who worked with Ricky Rudd back in the day. So like you're not only just working with Stewart-Haas, you're working with these people that have been places and done things and have stories about, airbrushing Ricky Rudd's hauler that looked like the laundry machine back in the day.
Yeah,
and like,
yeah.
So,
Yeah, dude. Heck yeah.
And then my coworker, Maycroft, was the stunt double for Ricky Bobby in the Laughing Clown.
Oh, no.
In the Laughing Clown scene when he has to sub and they're like, "You're my best friend." Like the opening of that scene, my old coworker is the guy sticking the jack under and jacking the car up before they switch angles. So, and he's in the background of like 4 or 5 of the Victory Lane scenes, and he's in the background of the scene at Rockingham where he's running around in his underwear again. So, so every time I watch that movie, I'm like, yo, I worked with that guy. But yeah, man, like,
dude, that's awesome.
There's so many people in this sport that have been here for years and experienced different things and seen so many different things that it was awesome. I got to spend an off season with them there, learning how everything switches over. Like seeing the switch over from year to year was insane. The new suits, the new photo shoots. I was doing the photo shoots of Kevin and the drivers, and Chase Briscoe and Cole Custer and Eric Almirola, like, getting to be the guy they're looking at when they're like, okay, do I cross my arms? Do I turn this way? Like,
right.
And there was a moment when we had brought Ream back, and it was, returning to Kevin's car. And, I had been shooting Kevin in a Bush suit all year, right? Blue, baby blue, bright blue. This was really one of the first times I had seen him truly in like black and red. And we did a shoot. They wanted sunglasses and hat on. And like he turned around and I'm looking through my lens, and I said without even thinking about it, I said out loud, I was like, "That's Kevin Harvick right there." And he said, "What?" And I said, "No, man, like you got the red and black, you got the sunglasses, you got the hat." I'm like, "That looks like classic Kevin Harvick. Like, here, look at this." And he was like, "Yeah, you're right." So it was kind of a moment like where I was like, "Oh, this is the childhood hero. Like that's him right there." And made it through a whole off season. Things weren't kind of going exactly how I wanted to at that job. I felt like it might not have been the place for me, but met some great coworkers, Wes Jenkins and Ross Weiss, especially, who's with the World of Outlaws. Amazing folks that, shared the creativity that I have and the passion that I have for the sport, and was led by Jess Smith, who's now at NASCAR, big NASCAR, and they've been doing some really great things this year. And then Hannah, who was doing our social, is amazing. She's at NASCAR too now. So it's been cool seeing where kind of that 2021 crew went. But I went to a Daytona 500, saw everything, in person, all that was out there. But in the background, I had been still running Lue Creative, right? Started Lue Creative on my college couch, just, making side money. Got my first gig doing a Photoshop for UPR Products, who's still my partner now on the streetcar side. And they paid me to make a Cobra Jet render out of the 2015 Mustang concept. And that was my first like paid gig in the car world. So 10 plus years later, I guess almost 10 years later in 21, I had been freelancing and had a gig with, my old coworker at NASCAR, Megan Malater, got me hooked up with this licensee in Australia that was getting the NASCAR license to do like throwback merch. And so all summer I was basically working 2 9-to-5s. I was driving 40 minutes to Stuart Haas and spending 9 to 5 there, driving 40 minutes back, and then maybe eating something and watching a TV show. And then I was working from like 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. on an Australian 9-to-5. So if you don't know, when they need something by Friday, that's Thursday night. So and if they need a meeting on Monday morning, that's Sunday night. So it was a great 8 months of that where I was burning it at both ends, but it paid really well, and the projects were very consistent, and it allowed us to save up a little nest egg. And Emily, my business partner, she was working with Martin Truex's management company. And things weren't going the way she wanted to there at the end a little bit. And we both kind of in probably December, November, looked at each other and were like, I think we can do this. Like, I think like, even if it doesn't work, we've got 6 to 8 months of bills that we're good. Yeah. Like, we're okay right now. If we jump and fall, we're going to be all right. And we've got the skills to get another job, and, we can make things work. And so I really wanted to go see if I could get a Daytona 500 ring. which I didn't, but it was a great experience though. Like flying into Daytona and doing the whole thing on the team side, it was awesome. And got back and gave it like another week, like, oh, let's see, like, and it just, the decision was made. And Emily, put her 2 weeks in like a little bit before me. So I did my full 2 weeks at Stewart Haas. I got him through the next two races. While Emily came home and got us set up on QuickBooks. She got all our business stuff out of the way, made sure we had, our tax filing, and then got our first couple of clients, which our first retainer client was Sam Hunt Racing. And I've got to, after this, go make their tune in for Daytona. So we jumped out in 2022, right after Daytona, and we've been hammered down ever since. And through a good string of great folks and amazing clients, and self promotion never hurts, and people have found us and we've found them, and we're lucky to have folks that appreciate the creativity and let us have a lot of fun with their brands.
Dude, that's an incredible journey. And like, I feel like if you're creative in any space and you're like listening to Harris talk, especially about the world of motorsport, like if you're not in the world of racing, I can understand. Sometimes it's hard to like get into that and understand, but just to like know and appreciate the level of detail and the number of things that have to be created for a race team. When you were talking about like new sponsors coming in, right? Fire suits have to get made, new liveries have to get made, all this stuff that goes into what ultimately a fan sees as the end product at the track on TV. Having done like a little tiny bit in the world of IndyCar, like it's a wild amount of stuff that has to come together for all of that to happen. And I think that for folks who maybe aren't in the world of racing, they don't understand the depth of creativity that actually does go into that. Because when that driver stands by that car for that photo on the starting grid, like that whole thing has to look together and like it was meant to be, right? It's not just like random logos on a fire suit and random things that get thrown together. Like there's so much intentionality that goes into that. And I think what's killer about your story is you've gotten to see that intentionality play out in the league, in NASCAR, in the team setting, and now getting to kind of bring the best of both of those worlds to your partners, to your clients, and be able to help them create that full experience, whether it's in the team setting, in the apparel, and the licensing and merchandising setting. Like that's so amazing to hear all of that.
And, back to the whole, Emily being my better half, on her side of things, she was at a management company. So she learned not only how to make the sponsor deck, but how to pitch it. And then she was also running driver social media. She was on the sticks for folks like Noah Gragson and Ryan Truex, and, learning how to capture their voice and make sure that if she was tweeting, it didn't sound like she was tweeting, right? So, we have those skills. She spent five years there. So like we have those skills together, that we have a lot of common skills, but we both have strengths that we have that are our own. And we use those to be, like you said, a well-rounded motorsports agency that if you have a race team or you're, even into cars and you want to do something cool, we probably know how to do it or know someone that can and can point you in the right direction.
Well, I think what's so cool too about your story is, and your journey is just how much of like a sponge you were, right? Like, I think so often we can get discouraged pretty quickly when we don't like maybe land the job we want, or we get into a job and we think, oh man, this isn't really what I thought it was going to be. But when you kind of take this approach and you step back and you think, okay, what can I learn here while I'm here? Maybe I'm not here forever. Maybe I will end up being here forever. But at the same time, what an incredible opportunity I have to just soak in things, right? And learn different things and be exposed to the things that, man, I never would have imagined myself being in this position. And now how like later in life, like, right, like you and your wife can bring all those experiences together, balance each other out, run an agency, connect people with other people that maybe, like you were saying, like maybe we can't do this, but chances are I probably know somebody that can because of my experiences and the community that you've built within motorsports, within just the being creative and all of that. And so I think that's just an important thing for people to take, is to not get so discouraged necessarily maybe with even the work you're doing or not doing, but to understand, like, man, you have these moments to just soak in some things and learn. And you don't know later in life how beneficial those things might be for you.
Absolutely. And I can't sit here and pretend that, the whole time that things weren't going the way that I wanted, I was rosy and happy about it.
Oh, for sure.
I will,
for sure, dude.
With being creatives, we're very personally tied to our work, right?
Absolutely.
I don't really know a creative that doesn't take it personally a little bit, even if there's, something that's not the way they want it or something that's not the way they would have done it. But I can say with a lot of hindsight and, a lot of experience, regardless of what you're going through and how bad it is, in a couple of years, you'll look back and be thankful for it. And be thankful that you learned something from it and that you were able to use something from it. I don't think there's any experience, good or bad, that I've had in the creative world that I haven't been able to approach something like that in the future in a better way. And that's, not letting yourself get too tripped up. I mean, there was definitely times where I let myself get too tripped up and a little discouraged, but like I said, I always had that Lue Creative, thing at home, right? That for the longest time, that was like, okay, things didn't go well at work today, but I've got this at home. I can, I'm in control of that. Like that's, my realm to play around. That's my realm to let my creativity out if I wasn't able to get it out the way I wanted to today. And that's kind of how it started, right? Like I said earlier in my college career, my professors were very adamant about pushing me to not do car stuff. And at the time, I took it very personally. I remember we had a long form text project that was one of our big projects, and we're sitting in front in a conference room class with a big table, and it's the head of the design department, who's our professor at the time. And she's explaining this project. And before she gets done explaining the project, she spins around in her chair, points at me and says, "Harris, you can't do cars on this." In front of the whole class, bro. And the worst part was, I was thinking, The Weeknd's first album had just came out. Huge fan of The Weeknd. So Kissland had just come out. He had just done his first public interview with Rolling Stone. And so I was already thinking, I'm going to make a booklet for that article to go in the CD. And so my brain had already gone away from cars, but she had to turn around in front of everybody and, give me the Uncle Sam finger and you can't do cars. And it was just in that moment, I'm like, what? It's okay. I wasn't going to, but now I might, because you said I couldn't.
Right.
That's not cool. So I did.
Yeah, not cool.
But that was the attitude from some of my professors. And, I remember another professor telling me you might not be able to get a car job right out of college and you might have to go make something for an agency. And I'm like, maybe, but I'm still going to have that Lue Creative thing on the side. And I'm still going to do that, regardless of where I end up professionally. Very luckily, I ended up, landing multiple dream jobs in a row. I have been extremely blessed and extremely lucky to have these opportunities come my way, and very thankful for every bit of it. But I know that even if those hadn't happened, I wouldn't have stopped pushing the motorsport stuff on the Lue Creative side, right? I always had that. That was the end goal for the whole time, was to eventually make Lue Creative the only thing. And while I was doing those projects in college that I wasn't that passionate about, I was still staying up till 3 a.m. on my couch, photoshopping a car or making a logo for a driver, or, so I think my biggest piece of advice for any creative is, do what it takes to get the job done, whether you're in school, whether you're at work, whether, whatever you have to do what it takes to the best of your ability to get the job done on the project that you have to do, and make sure you carve out time, whether it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, to focus on what you're passionate about. Even now that I've made my passion my job, I still, multiple times a year, find a passion project. I find something that, I want to do because it's something that I like. I'll, draw a car from my childhood that, is not a client, but I really love it. Or, even the retro meet back here, like that's one of our passion projects. That's what we do at Mustang Week. It's a big retro themed car event that's all around Fox bodies and 90s Mustangs. And that's a big passion project for us. We do all the art for it. We do the signage, we plan the event, and, having those things that aren't really tied to a deadline that's from someone else. Having those things that the only person critiquing it is you and your friends if you want.
Yep.
And like, that's where you learn new things. That's where you try new things. This poster up here, I did a Back to the Future parody, and I'm not an airbrusher. I can't, I don't know how to do Drew Struzan style up here. Here's the Back to the Future poster. But for that poster, I wanted to see if I could get close. I wanted to see if I could learn that. And that's not something I would try on someone that's paying me. That's not, I'm not going to do that exploration on a client project. But we bought Drew Struzan's books with all of his old movie posters in them. And, he read how he did it and like saw how he used reference and things like that. And I tried and attempted to get as close as I could. And the skills that I learned on that personal project that really had no stakes other than, it's the poster for our event. If I can't hit it, I'll design something else. I could go back to my tried and true style.
Yep.
But since then, I've become a better illustrator. I've become a better shader. I've become a better, get a more painterly style that I've now used on projects since. So I think my biggest piece of creative advice is finding those passion projects where you can do it with zero consequences, right? Like just have fun. Buy some new tools, whether you're painting physically or digitally or designing, like, find some new fonts, find some new brushes, find some new texture packs, and just play around with no timeline.
That's so good.
With no, no stakes, and see where it takes you and see what you learn.
Yeah, that's so good. And I was thinking along those lines too, as you were talking about Lue Creative and just how even those things evolve. Those like passion things evolve, like, and we have to be okay with that and intentional about that too. Still, like you said, like Lue Creative has become your main thing, where before it was kind of that passion thing. And it's like, well, now it's my main thing. Like now I got to find some other passion things that are within, my realm or help me grow, or honestly, just help me burn off some steam or free up my mind. Like sometimes I just go on a walk around my neighborhood because like, I just need mindlessness. I need things to just escape my mind and, whatever. And it's like, and those things are so important because in the overall scope of creativity, going back to what you said, is like it's so personal to us. Like even if it's a little bit personal, but that's what makes it good. That's what makes our work good, is when it is personal. But at the same time, like that can so often lead to burning out, because you're tired of the feedback, you're tired of the criticism, you're tired of all those things. And when you're able to just free your mind a bit and step back and do some things that you really love, without criticism or whatever, like that really does help you in the long run, like just sustain what you're doing is so important. And so with that too, like one of the things we've been asking people is where they see creativity going in the next 5 years. So we're curious to know whether it's specifically in motorsport or just in general, where do you feel like it's heading?
I feel like we're becoming specialists almost. The tools that are out there that an account manager or someone running the socials can use to make quick flip graphics, to do that. Like those projects are coming less and less. And while those some of those were the easy money projects, I feel like it really, finding a style, finding something that separates you from the rest, I think is a very good thing to do right now. We are entering the world of AI, unfortunately. And like I just saw a poster by a drag strip last night it was a full AI poster and it had text in it. And there was a word misspelled, but it had text in it. So so it's getting better by the day. And the saying is that today's the worst it's ever going to be again. Find a way to separate yourself, find a way to make something unique, find a way to become that specialist and that artist, right? Get back to being an artist. And that's that's been one of the weird things for me, is that I've spent so many years, being Lue Creative, right? And now Lue Creative is my business. So I've pivoted back into being Harris Lue, the artist, right? That's, like you said, my passion projects were Lue Creative, right? So now Lue Creative's the job. So now my passion projects are Harris Lue again. And it's very weird. Like I'm still trying to create that separation out in the world, because, my Instagram handle is still Lue Creative, because someone has Harris Lue. I can't switch. And then someone has Lue Creative on Twitter, and the guy's replied to me multiple times saying he's never going to give it to me. And so there's confusion, but I'm now Harris Lue the artist. I'm now Harris Lue the artist that works for Lue Creative. And it's been interesting. Like when I do an illustration now, and it's for my social, and it's not, I'm signing it Harris Lue. And back in the day, I would have slapped the Lue Creative logo on it. So, finding a way to separate yourself from the crowd. Like I said, using those projects to learn new skills, to separate yourself, and don't be afraid to try new things. I don't think there will be a world where we don't need artists. There'll just be a world where fewer people want to pay for it. And that's very unfortunate. And, some of those early projects that I had that got my foot in the door with places are now things that somebody's probably going to churn out an AI or a Canva, or, and they're not going to call the 18, 19-year-old future me to do it, because they can get it for cheap. Yeah. They're going to run it through an app because they can get it for free. And that's very disappointing. I hope people pivot back. I hope I personally, you can see everything behind me. I'm very into the tangible, right? And I feel like I've pivoted back that direction. Spotify was great. I was an early Spotify adopter, but now I got a stack of cassettes behind me, because popping that cassette in the cassette tape and hearing the mechanical and hearing the physical and actually owning it, right? And being able to hold it and look in the booklet. And I feel like we're going back that direction. I feel like Gen Z has a huge desire to own things. And I think that's why you see them be like, that's why thrift markets are so huge right now. And because the kids want the quality that we used to have, and they want to be able to own it and touch it and feel it. And so really, making sure you focus on that, be tangible, be, if you can make a poster, make a poster. Posters have become a huge thing for us in the past couple of years, because I know I had cool car posters on my wall, and there's kids out there that want cool stuff on their walls. And, pivot back to the tangible, become a specialist, and really come up with a style that folks want to have. And I think I see creativity going in that direction, where it's more unique specialization than, okay, everybody can make the same looking social graphic. So,
that's right. Dude, that's so good. And I feel that tangible thing, right? Josh and I, like, as huge racing fans, there haven't always been the things that we've wanted to put up, like in our kids' room. So I know, like, I've made my son posters for his room about his favorite drivers or about his favorite part of motorsport or whatever, because there's just nothing that, like, I can go buy that I feel like is that, like, handcrafted artist quality that you used to have when I was a kid. And I had, my Dale Jarrett UPS poster up on my wall as a kid. So I love that. Harris, dude, this has been an incredible conversation. Would love to ask you, just before we jump off here, like, what's next for you? What's on the horizon for you, the team at Lue Creative, anything personally or professionally that you're just, like, super pumped about?
Well, I don't know when you'll be watching this, but right now we're in the middle of the Daytona Rush. So the new season has kicked up. So if this is coming out in May, we'll probably be, around the All-Star race, the Coke 600, doing a lot of cool stuff for a lot of cool people. Sam Hunt Racing has been our rock and our anchor client for so many years, and we're excited to see them do well this year on CW every weekend in the Xfinity Series. Still doing a lot of work for folks like Kevin Harvick and Liquid Death. They've gotten huge into NASCAR, which we did a parody shirt for them a couple years ago, and we turned an old 80s hearse into a Monte Carlo stock car, and now they're
incredible.
Now they're putting a real hearse that we designed the wrap on in the midways at NASCAR tracks. So
heck yeah, dude!
Lot of cool stuff coming up. We've got something I'm pretty proud of dropping in March. So maybe by the time you hear this, you can go back on our socials and see it. It's been really cool how we've fortunately been able to mix a lot of our passions together. And And like I said, if you're a business that, whether you're in motorsports or not, if you want to do some cool car stuff, hit us up. We did a shirt with a flying Lamborghini going through space for Dragon Force 2 years ago. Like,
Nice.
Never did I think when I was trying to play Through the Fire and Flames on Guitar Hero back in the day that I would end up making a shirt. Like,
No
yes,
so,
bro.
Check out our website, luecreative.com. We're going to be revamping that here pretty soon. Check out our socials, Lue Creative and Lue Creates. And we're on X, Instagram, all that good stuff. Trying to post more behind the scenes content. We just did a behind the scenes look at how we made the RFK Kroger shirt, where we actually went to our local grocery store, and I took car style photos of a shopping cart and drew a shopping cart for that tee.
Yes.
So, huge shout out to RFK. The folks over there let us have fun and let us run wild. And with sponsors like Build Submarines and Kroger and Fifth Third Bank, they let us get really creative, and it's been pretty cool helping them out with their merchandise. So just take a look at our socials. We post a lot of our designs and usually links to where you can go find them. Bobby Labonte's 25th anniversary of his 2000 championship is this year, and we've been working on an entire merch line for all that stuff. So his actual 2000 champion car will be in the Indy Museum this year. So you can be able to go check it out. And I don't know if they finished decaling it yet, but I went back through all the photos and remade all the contingency stickers the way they were in the Indy race that it won. So go check that out. They're doing a little tour at all the tracks. All the merch will be on the haulers at the NASCAR races. So really proud to be able to work with heroes like Bobby and Mark Martin. I'm wearing a shirt I did for Mark. We're doing a lot of stuff for him this year too. And if you told 8-year-old me that I would be on a first name basis with two of my hero drivers, I would probably passed out. So we're doing a lot of cool stuff for a lot of great people, and the best way to support us is to make sure to go buy the merch from them. Let them know that you like it, because the more you buy from them, the more we'll end up making, and that'll keep our wheels rolling. And like I said, if you need us, hit us up. We've got a inquiry tab on our website. Hit us up in the DMs on social. Always excited to work with new people. And like I said, if it's something that we can't do, we probably know someone that can. So
for sure. Dude, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for the wisdom that you've shared, the stories, the laughs. Like, dude, this has been awesome. And we'll be sure to link to all things Lue Creative in the show description, so you can go find website, social, all that stuff in the show description wherever you're listening or watching this too. Harris, dude, thank you so much for today. We really appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been a great way to start my day, and it's not often you get to slow down and take it all in and go back through, and something like this is a good reminder of how far I've come, and that some of those little annoyances I deal with every day in 5 years, I'm not even going to worry about. So thank you.
For sure, man. Dude,
in the hectic off season that it's been, I needed this. So I thank y'all a lot.
Good, man. I'm glad. I appreciate that, dude. And thanks to all of you for listening to another episode of Creative Belief. We really do hope that this podcast has been a reminder that you were made to create incredible things that can make the world a better place. So go create something awesome today that can make the world better. And we would love for you to subscribe to the show. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You can also follow what we're doing at our brand design studio, Creator Studio, on Instagram and on X. That's at CRTR Studio. And we would love to have you follow along, see what we're up to, and get more episodes, more conversations like this. Guys, thanks so much, and we'll see you all on the next one.